anything that can go wrong is effectively a risk. Risk management in financial services actually is most evolved because that involves public money. The sports tech was a deviation. It was an attempt to get into a space that honestly I knew nothing about.
So risk has been consistent in your working life.
And trained upwards of 2,000 managers, directors and partners of EY. The logical outcome was an institute that then teaches what I know, which is risk. It's a $40 billion market. So if you're a $40 billion market, we're about 7.5 years old, we've got 325 plus talents out in the market. But at any stage, I don't want to be larger than 300 in a year. This is not about wealth creation. This is about creating true experts. 75% of the CEOs polled, colleges and universities do not deliver what we want in the corporate world.
Because the world is changing faster than we even realize, right?
Absolutely. GRMI has got to be as synonymous with risk. That's really the vision. We don't want to be anyone else.
How many times have you heard that failure isn't final? What does it take as an entrepreneur to do it and to do it again and to finally get it right? What does it really take to be a serial entrepreneur? My guest today, Subhashis Nath, knows that better than most. He built a consulting business. Today it's a $100 million business, only to realize the risk of losing control. He then started a sports tech company before Dream 11 was even a thing, only to realize the harsh realities of cash burn and of raising finance. And today, he's changing the way higher education is perceived in India. So if you've really wondered what it's like to build, to stumble, to fall, and then to build again, this is a conversation that you're going to love. Hi, Subhashis. Welcome.
Hi, Sampada.
So, what does it feel like when I'm recapping your journey and I'm talking about building, stumbling, building again? Do you look back and you think it's been a good ride?
It's actually at one level been a fantastic ride because I think one needs to go through all of it. The learning curves of the firm that both of us were in together, the exposure to global clients and global work environment. I was fortunate enough that I got to work with clients in over 75 countries. So I think there is a value in everything. So I think for those who want to be entrepreneurs right up front, that's my take, that, give it time, build your fundamentals, get to the point where you actually ready to be an entrepreneur. At the same time, I think I had a DNA in me which said, A, I couldn't have a boss. I think I figured that out pretty early.
All right.
And two, there was charm in building your own stuff.
Right.
Your ability to live your vision, live your passion. I think it's been a fantastic ride. As in, if you said, do you have complaints? I think one is few, but very, very few.
So let's come to Access Risk Consulting, right? Which is today Genpact. So how did that happen? Tell us the story. How did that happen?
Yeah, so that I think is a very interesting one because it actually dates back to Andersen days. It actually doesn't. So between Andersen and Access was EY. So when I was with the Global Center of Excellence of EY for a couple of years. But it actually dates back to Andersen. And it dates back to the interesting 9/11 story. There was a Swiss client who all they needed was one resource support from India and Bangalore. I was based out of Bangalore then.
Okay.
One day, someone Amit gets a call saying the manager is not going to fly in.
Okay.
This is right after 9/11. So we need manager support.
Okay.
Which is when Amit called me up and said, here's this client, we were giving a resource. They've now said that they need manager support, and I happen to be the manager because being the only one in Bangalore. So literally started from there, a fragrance and flavors business, one project out of Bangalore. In the span of next 18 months, India office did the work for all of any work that happened in the risk space for the fragrance and flavors major outside of Switzerland.
Okay.
So that literally was the trigger when I was very clear in my head that Indian professionals are as accepted globally, especially in our risk space. Ways of managing risk are absolutely standard across the world. And therefore, as I saw Andersen fold up, we experienced other firms, and we realized none of the firms were truly global the way we were, and therefore they were all national profit pools. I was clear that no one was going to manage to, because we fought even for that one account, across offices, who should get the revenue credit.
Oh, okay.
And that's when I figured out that if the best of firms, and EY then back then was pretty large, if the largest and best of firms can't pull this off, if we could pull off an India for Globe risk consulting practice, it had a huge opportunity. So that's really where it dates back to. And therefore, Access Risk Consulting was set up with a very clear vision that we were going to be taking on the big fours head on,
Okay.
but we would do it with a unique model wherein right till the end when I left that practice, 98.5% revenues came from global clients,
Okay. That's
including 6 of the Fortune 50,
okay. That's
and
impressive.
97% of the people sat out of India.
Nice.
So that really was the vision and just played out. It was a long, tough journey with, like you said, with tons of highs and lows. But that's really the origin.
There are a couple of things that come out of this story that you told me. Firstly, you mentioned fragrances. So I should tell the viewers that he's also currently heading a risk management institute, India's first, the world's first. Am I
World's
right?
first.
The world's first. So which brings me back to this impression that people have that risk is mostly in the businesses of technology or of finance. So just can you explain it to us a little simpler, that how risk, you mentioned fragrances, so it immediately caught my attention.
Yeah, absolutely. So really demystifying the word risk.
Yes.
It is nothing but what can go wrong.
Okay.
Anything that can go wrong in a business at a strategic level, at an enterprise level, down at an activity level, anything that can go wrong is effectively a risk. And therefore, risk management extrapolated is management ensuring that they deal with those risks as well as they can. The other word for it is uncertainty. Now, if you think of it, which business, especially in today's volatile world, does not have uncertainties? Which business ever did not have what can go wrong? Things could go wrong anytime, anywhere, any business, right? And therefore, if you think of it, the disasters that have happened, the firm that brought Andersen, the business that brought Andersen down, wasn't a financial service. That was energy, right?
And as traditional as you can get. Yes,
right?
yes.
If you think of it, the one after that was WorldCom. Again, not energy, and again, not financial services, right? And come closer home, one of the edtech companies, which was the news more recently, right?
Yeah.
Again, not financial services.
Got it.
So there are so many businesses that have actually sort of gone south, and they've had nothing to do with financial services, but they've gone south because either management did not kind of see the risks or uncertainties come through, or if they actually saw it, they weren't sort of adaptive enough, they weren't agile enough. And I think the two easiest examples that resonates with any audience is, both of us have grown up in the time when you went for a holiday, Kodak films had to accompany you, right?
Yes.
Right?
And now that's...
Kodak did, so that's a risk, right?
Yeah.
Most of us have used our BlackBerries at some stage.
Yes,
and felt that was the most secure data server. They don't exist anymore. Those are classic examples of board level risks.
Okay.
Where you don't accept the fact that change is an essential part of being in business. More recent, closer home, Oyo coming and impacting the hospitality sector. Right. Uber coming and impacting the traditional sort of transport service businesses. So all of these are risks, and therefore, for anyone who's ever thought that risk was all about financial services,
that's not really.
It is not so, and it is primarily because risk management in financial services actually is most evolved, because that involves public money, and hence you've had the regulator far more focused on de-risking that sector for a much longer number of years.
Okay.
And hence this perception.
Okay. So thank you for clarifying that. I want to do a little bit of a switch and come back to you, your journey as an entrepreneur. Now, you were a sweat equity partner in Access, and it ended up getting sold much earlier than you would have liked. So what was that journey like, and what were your learnings out of that?
So I think I'm just going to keep it simple. 2 messages. If you really want to give it your all, don't be in a business that you can't control the destiny of. I think that's really what I took away from it. I must say that 2 of the leaders who were involved are absolute sort of tall, iconic leaders in our space. Best of sort of reputation, best of ability, everything. But the fact is, people in different stages of their lives have different priorities.
Yes.
For
Yes.
them, it wasn't as if they had the next 30 years to look forward to. For them, what was right at that point in time was, I guess, the biggest decision driver. And for me, what I'd done was I'd make a choice to pretty much invest my life into Axis.
Okay.
So therefore, when you don't have a control, you really should be very, very careful. So to me, it was an absolute shattering of a dream of saying one could build a real dream organization. And the fact that the dream wasn't sort of misplaced is proven by the fact that even after selling it, we did grow it to be actually a $125 million plus business.
Wow.
Right?
Okay.
So there wasn't anything wrong with the dream.
Okay.
It's just that ownership changed hands, in which I had very little control.
So I think we had a previous founder who spoke about co-founder synergy, right? So one of the synergies, apart from a personality and a goal match, should also be a timeline match. What I'm taking away from
Absolutely. Whereas
right?
you would actually think, and the way I thought about it back then was, here are two really tenured, mature leaders. They bring their sort of weight, value, all of it. But I've possibly got far more horsepower left, being that
And
early.
the will, yeah.
And the will to really give that push. So I thought that was just the best combination possible, right? So I don't think till you've sort of been through it, and was it designed to fail? The answer is no.
No.
Right? So I think there is no right or wrong, and therefore, but I think what you're saying is correct. I think there is value in trying to match
Your long-term
whether
goals.
just sort of age. I think it's about priorities. I think if we just ever sat down and asked ourselves, the three of us, when we started off, that were we in it for the long haul, and the definition of long haul, we possibly
have been
wouldn't have
different.
hit this stage.
Wow. So that's a learning you got out of
Absolutely,
it, right?
absolutely.
And then you moved from there to something drastically different, which is sports tech. And sports tech before Dream 11 was even a thing, right? So why sports tech, and what was the driving passion?
So I think there were two, again, very simple things. One, I'm an absolute sports buff. So being a sports buff, the whole thought of now being an entrepreneur who does a sports tech kind of was, wow, at least I've got something that I'm going to do, really like doing it. Two, the world back then was always talking about multipliers and how any tech business had those little fancy valuation stuff, right? So I think a part of me said, okay, I've got a very steady risk consulting sort of side of me. Why don't I go invest in this business, which seems to be really new age, has this little coolness quotient. We'd be seen around with sports players and with IPL leagues and all of that stuff. So I think there's a coolness quotient to it. And that's it. That's really what sort of, and obviously the bunch of people who were setting it up, they were dear friends. So they were known friends. It was a thing that I liked doing, which is sports, and there was a coolness quotient. So
that's how it
that's really how it started.
And what's interesting to me is that your learnings there were completely different than your learnings here.
Very, very different.
You've been very candid about the cash crunch and the trying to raise money bit. And so how did that go? How was your journey with?
So if you think of it as a product, just want everyone, and this is not because we set it up. I don't need to say it now that it's folded up, but everyone who saw the product, and it was in market, so it's not a sort of individual view, it's a public view. They actually acknowledged that it was technically a far superior product to even today's Dream 11, right? Because we guys, the ones who were doing it, were real sports buffs. So we knew how to make that truly impactful from a sports perspective.
Okay.
So having the best possible product, what came in the way was very simple: cost of customer acquisition. Having never done that business, I had no clue what levels of customer acquisition cost you incur and for how long is the gestation. And think of it, I had both businesses going on in parallel. So
oh, you did? Okay.
yes. So
okay.
I had the university just about taking up, which is what we'll talk about.
Yeah.
And then you have this sports tech. And I was not relying on any external funding. So when you really need to make your hard choices, this one just left me with no choice but to say, bad decision, don't do stuff that you can't. sad shutdown, but
Okay.
just,
Okay.
and that's when I say you at least have the ability to accept when you got it wrong. I think that's
Okay.
what I told all my co-founders. I said, guys, if you got it wrong, we gave it our best. Learn from
And
it.
that's what.
Let's do stuff that we are better at.
So when you look back, do you see it as essential in your journey to founding Global Risk Management Institute? Or do you feel that, oh, I wasted my time there? Or do you feel you learned something out of it?
No, so I don't think it was a waste of time. I'll tell you for a couple of reasons. One, I think it just told me that there was tremendous value in how we built Axis. And I'll tell you why. Because when we were building Axis and we were starting to get successful, there were enough and more who came and told me, okay, this is M&A deal going on, so why don't you sort of do a little bit of M&A consulting also?
Okay.
There's a little bit of due diligence requirement. You guys do audit, so why don't you do due diligence also? So, because if you're serving a large customer, they have multiple requirements.
Okay.
And they trust you. And they trust you at a very different level.
Okay.
So the distractions to go do other stuff are very high.
Okay.
And we could have made a lot of money as well. Like you would know due diligence, corporate finance kind of work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of money, a lot more than what
that's a
auditors get
low-hanging
paid.
fruit. Yeah,
Absolutely, right? So we'd said, no, if you're a risk firm, we only do risk and nothing else. I think that's where we started from. The sports tech was a deviation. It was an attempt to get into a space that honestly I knew nothing about.
Okay.
So therefore, when I set up GRMI, I just sort of told myself one very simple thing. Do what you do best. Stick to what you know. And don't get adventurous and sort of try and make this all-purpose institute, because that's where you sort of didn't get it right. So to your question, do I see it as an essential, maybe not an essential, but a terrific learning along the way?
On your path, yeah.
Absolutely. And on hindsight, I can now say it, which is, let's assume we'd succeeded. We would possibly still be just about coming out of red, because gestation period is huge.
Okay.
And money involved is massive. If you were just about still turning around, look at what the government regulation just did with what's happened in the gaming sector.
It did.
Gosh, the big guys will still survive out of it.
They seem to have made a fast pivot.
Yeah.
At least they're saying they have. So,
Exactly. But they have the deep pockets to deal with whatever they've sunk. But imagine if we had those levels of debts. I don't think there was a way there's nothing that I can imagine could have saved us. So, lesson learned, stick to what you meant to stick to. And sometimes life is not particularly unfair. It allows you not to sort of dig yourself too deep a hole.
Okay. So risk has been consistent in your sort of working life. But if I have to look at industries, I'm looking at a completely different industry with GRMI, which is education. So how did the industry happen? Did you do a lot of research before you decided to get into the education industry? Because it's a completely different ball game. And tell us about GRMI specifically.
So this will take some background. So again, Andersen used to have something called Friday morning trainings. Right?
Okay.
So it was sacrosanct in at least our part of risk world, audit world. Every morning there was a Friday morning training. You don't have a choice either to attend or being an instructor. Right from then, till the firm folded up in risk, I was a training leader. Then we became EY. After co-authoring EY's Global SOX Advisory Methodology, I globetrotted for a year and trained upwards of 2,000 managers, directors, and partners of EY.
Okay.
When I set up Axis, till I think about 10 years of it, when I was almost told, so we just give up training, and you got to let go, I would be there for our own Friday morning trainings, listening to managers instruct, because I just felt that it's so essential that you teach people before you expect them to get things right, because Andersen taught us that. We were taught in a very different way. So therefore, the entire journey, if you look at it, risk was one constant. The other constant was I was always into what now is called learning and development, what we used to call training, right?
Whether
So
it's yourself or other people. Yes.
Correct. So I was very close to learning and development. So therefore, that was an essential part that I loved doing it. By the way, I even taught my batchmates back in college. So therefore, this whole teaching thing has been a thing for me. And then as I looked around, I said, I need to do something of my own. I'm not going to risk into a space that I don't understand, my learnings from the sports tech. So therefore, you like teaching, You don't want to go into a zone that you're not comfortable with. The logical outcome was an institute
Okay.
that then teaches what I know, which is risk.
Okay.
That was the genesis of GRMI, Global Risk Management Institute.
Okay.
And the fact that along the way, whenever we got talent, whenever we sort of recruited talent, we realized, be it from CA campus, be it from top drawer B schools, be it from top drawer grad colleges, the fact is everyone came with zero risk knowledge.
Okay. All right.
And it's a $40 billion market. So if you're a $40 billion market,
What, the risk market? All right. All
so it's a $40 billion market. So that's your demand. And your supply is zero. And you like doing this. It was fairly a no-brainer that one should do well in this space. And I jokingly say that, if you have a medical situation, I hope you go to a doctor. If you have a legal situation, hopefully you go to a lawyer. When companies need advice on risk, they take the biggest risk by going to a set of professionals, 100% of whom, till GRMI happened, are untrained risk professionals.
Yeah, you learn on the job. Yeah, I would assume so.
So how big a risk is that? When everyone is being advised on risk by someone who's never been taught what risk management is. So it's just intuition, it's work X that's helping them do it. And therefore I told myself that, if one has been fortunate enough to do this for about, back then, 25, 26 years, of which 10 years with the best of minds globally, here was an opportunity to actually give back. And that was the give back moment, saying you can have a far higher impact if you could train minds young versus advising clients. So that's the real origin for GRMI.
Okay, nice. When you talk about GRMI, one thing I've heard you consistently mention is how important it is to have industry leaders come there and to have much more of an interaction between the students and industry leaders than one would perhaps have thought. So where does that come from, and how much support have you received from the industry for your students at GRMI?
So I think it's a combination at two levels. One is what you referred to at the faculty level. And I'm going to sort of very quickly demystify it to say, if you wanted someone to teach you something around, let's say, cyber risk, something everyone knows about, hears about, right? The changes, the risks are so sort of dynamic that you would ideally have someone who possibly knows how the last attack was saved or prevented as of yesterday.
Okay.
Versus someone who's a theoretical book expert, having read every possible methodologies, techniques, and has been teaching that, let's say, for a decade. That's fantastic, consistent delivery of knowledge. But for the student, what matters, especially in risk, which is such a dynamic world, to have people who are dealing with it day to day, either in their own businesses, so either they're chief risk officers in large organizations, or their partners, directors in the Big Four consulting world, where they're dealing with those risks on a day-to-day basis for their clients, or rather advising their clients, right? So therefore they see it across industries, retail, hospitality, airlines, they're all so different, right? So that's why it's so essential. And I think I always say that one has to be super blessed to have the number of faculty members, upwards of about 20 of them, who literally take out time on weekends, which is entirely their personal time, and come and just share their experiences. And that's faculty for you here at the institute.
Nice.
And at a different plane, if you think of it, most of our board members, strat board members, they are again iconic names. Mr. Subodh Bhargava, who has possibly sat on every possible Tata board, Mukesh Bhotani, Andersen, BMR, professional of global repute, founder of NIT University, Vijay Thadani. I can go on and on. The first chairman, the first board chair was the former PwC India chair.
Okay.
Now, that set of leaders, what they provide is a massive sounding board for me, for example, and it creates a certain degree of credibility, especially given what GRMI has been trying to do, which is establish a category unto itself. So when I say a category, we are the only players, like you mentioned, in risk in higher education in the world, not even in the country.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
So for those who follow a little bit of marketing, a category is beverage, right? So Pepsi and Coke existed. Coca-Cola just came in. They're a brand in that category. FM was a category. So Radio Mirchi was a brand, right? But that's possibly one of the more recent categories created. But in that, 5 players built the category at the same time. And there were deep pockets of 5 players creating that category. So the reason I'm saying all this is we've chosen to create a category called risk in higher education, being the only ones and with no external investors, right? So the only currency we've had are 2. One, placement and success of our students and alumni. And second is the sheer weight of our board and advisors. So that is how, when I keep saying that this is really about industry putting its full weight behind the institute, it comes at those 2 levels, at a faculty level as well as at the advisory level. And again, I keep repeating it over and over again. One just has to be exceptionally blessed to have so many people come together for what they've all believed, which is the purpose of redefining higher education. So that's really...
That's how it is. You've also made light of the fact that you're creating a new category, which brings me to that you're part of a heavily regulated industry. You're also trying to carve out your own path. You're also part of policy making and, governmental decisions. So how are the two merging in, and how tough is the fight to try and create a new category here?
So I think the 2 are just about equally tough sort of journeys to navigate.
I would have guessed so, yes.
Right. So the one is where we are creating a category in the world of higher education. And which essentially means that parents have to start believing that their kids are going to do well if they did a postgrad in risk management. Right. So that's step 1. 2, the kids have to feel that in their peer pressure, they aren't doing the usual stuff. So they aren't doing their MBAs or they aren't doing their CAs. And now they go say, I'm doing a postgrad in risk management. So does that sound good amongst their peers? So that's the category being created for the parents and the kids to start believing in it. And for that, our alums effectively are their sort of go-to markers, saying, gosh, there's so many of them doing so well. Right. So we've got alums who are regional compliance leaders, GE Aerospace, for example. You've got risk leaders in Saudi. You've got managers across the big 4. So that tells them that. But I think the other bit that you brought up is actually what I'm super passionate about, which is it's not just about us. See, we are an institute. We can make a difference only to that extent, right? Also because I never intend us to be a factory where we have 2,000 students. I think at our max we'll be at 300 and we'll stop.
And how many years old are you now?
We're about 7.5 years old. We've got 325 plus alums out in the market. But at any stage, I don't want to be larger than 300 in a year. That's essentially why we want to be super, super different. That this is not about wealth creation. This is about creating true experts. But I think the other one is really where its impact at a scale which is disproportionate, because you'd be surprised to know that there are about 15,000 institutes in the country.
For higher education.
For higher education, which are all delivering specialized education in their own areas. So it could be AI, it could be cinematography, it could be fashion technology, it could be digital marketing, it could be public policy, it could be risk like us. But that's not about GRMI. That's really saying if there are 15,000 institutes, and I'm willing to accept that maybe 90% of them don't have the ability to be top drawer quality.
Don't have the ability.
Let's assume for a minute. Even then, you're talking about 1,500 schools which have the ability to be absolutely creme de la creme, top drawer quality. These schools are not recognized in our country. Our country regulations still have archaic systems. Yes, the new education policy has helped in a big way, where they have brought in concepts of asset light, i.e. you don't need 20 acres of land. They've brought in far more forward-looking changes. But the fact still remains that these kind of institutes will not, in today's regulatory environment, get accepted by the government because of things like we can't have permanent faculty. Like I explained to you, if I want the best of risk knowledge being imparted, we cannot have full-time faculty because then they will become redundant, right? If you have a cinematography school and you have a bunch of people who've given up cinematography, how would they even know what's the latest and greatest in technology, right? You would know that. If you are even into, let's say, modeling, if you don't know what's the latest and greatest, you've been in a school teaching it all the time.
Yeah.
So none of these specialized schools can afford to have full-time faculty. Our regulations require you to have full-time faculty. Our regulations require you to do research. Now, why do I need to do research if I can deliver the result, which is employment? So we are saying start measuring schools by outcome, which is either placement and real placement. It's not about sort of just placement on paper. So this advocacy bit that you're referring to is really about working with the government, which includes Niti Aayog, which includes the ministries of education, skill, doing a little bit of the North Block, South Block. You don't have a choice to sort of gradually get people's buy-in. And we are saying recognize these set of institutes as higher education institutes, because till you don't, our students pay 18% GST.
Yes.
They don't get bank loans easily.
I didn't know that.
They don't get any of the benefits that typical students get. So what we're saying is, do the country good, find ways to recognize these 1,500. I'm already bringing it down to 1,500 from the 15,000 because I recognize that the government's going to be rightfully so very cautious of saying, we can't just open the floodgates and let everyone become recognized higher education, because we also know how many people have maligned the higher education sector by running away after setting a school, taking 3 years' money. So I know why the government's possibly cautious, but that really is, when I say there's a category for parents and students, a huge challenge. The other one is really redefining higher education.
Okay. All right. I'm just going to take a quick switch to a student perspective. You have the world has changed since we passed out. Like I did my MBA, and you did your CA, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
So, what would be your advice? You've spoken about something called super specialization, I think. What would be your advice to someone looking for a job now, or who will be looking for a job in the next couple of years? What do you think is the way forward with the way the world has changed?
Okay, so I'm going to ensure that believability of what I'm saying is even higher by first starting with a few data points.
Okay.
And this is out there in public domain, so it's researched. Non-placed grads of iconic Howard have gone up from 10 to 20 to 23% over the last 3 batches.
The business school bubble has burst. Yeah.
Right. Right. So this is, by the way, I just take Howard because it's so iconic that anyone listening to your podcast would know that it's real now. By the way, the same things happening across other top tier B schools. Same things happening across engineering colleges. And what I keep reminding everyone is that, trust me, nothing's gone wrong with those schools. They haven't suddenly got inferior faculty. They still teach the same Kotler for marketing. So why do you think it's happening? And which is the piece that most people forget? That it's not deterioration in their quality, it's a complete change in the headset of the recruiters.
And the market. The market
Absolutely.
has changed.
The market and the recruiter is pretty clear that I need specialists. I need people to know what I need them to do. So if I'm hiring people in hospitality, I want people who actually understand hospitality. I don't care if they are from the best of B school, because I've realized that that brings something, but I need more. So, there's a business roundtable. It's a global CEOs forum, where I think 2023, which is not too far back, 75% of the CEOs polled, colleges and universities do not deliver what we want in the corporate world.
Really?
75%, and this includes people like Indra Nui, who are part of the business roundtable, another name that everyone recognizes, right? If you look at India's talent mismatch index, Adecco Group, publicly available, India's score is 52 on 100.
Okay, that's...
And as the phrase suggests, it's talent mismatch.
Okay.
Talent between what the education sector delivers versus what the corporate world wants. Interestingly, that's not India alone at 52. If you look at most of Global South and many others, the percentage is reasonably similar. So what does that tell you, therefore? Therefore, this is a problem which is much, much larger than just even India. And hence, even GMAC, which is the body that runs GMAT, the MBA entrance that all of us know about,
Yeah.
even they have in one of their leadership meetings, and I can't say more than that, concluded that curriculum of B schools needs to be revisited.
Okay.
Imagine if this is as global as it is. Coming to your question on advice to students, my limited point to them is stop treading the old path. Look out for what the market needs today. Match that with what you feel like doing, because that is the career path that you're going to possibly be successful with. And hence that area of super specialization. If you like digital marketing, become a super success out of it.
All right.
Crack the hell out of it. Go to a school that really teaches you digital marketing. If you like cinematography, go get yourself trained in a school which has that sort of faculty, which will really make a difference to you. Forget whether it carries the university stamp of saying it's accredited by ABC, because that ain't getting you a job. I think that's the real advice, that the world now cares for super specialization. Like we started with a program on risk. Just a year back, we've further gone one level deeper. Now we have a 6-month program with NIT University,
Okay.
which is on technology risk.
I saw that, yes.
So within risk, now it's another subset called technology risk.
All right.
And the last thing that we did just this month actually is we've now taken this education to the graduation level. So far we were postgrad. So we've now collaborated with an institute of eminence in India, Shiv Nadar University. So we've now we're the first lot to educate graduates in India on risk. So the intent is to, again, educate students early enough in life, or create awareness early enough in life, saying explore and stop believing that careers that you've seen all your sort of seniors follow are the only ones that you can.
Because the world is changing faster than we even realize, right?
Absolutely.
So we've spoken about risk extensively in this podcast, and you've had some hits and some misses in your career.
Yep.
So what would be a very pragmatic piece of advice you'd give to someone who's thinking of giving up a corporate job and becoming an entrepreneur?
So I think there are about 3-4 things, and then these, I believe, as after having, like you said, having had a few runs into trying new businesses. One, are you sure you're solving for a real problem that exists? And it might be hackneyed, people may have said it over and over again, but I genuinely believe that is at the core of a business being successful or not.
Okay.
Most people, most entrepreneurs end up setting up a business or planning a business and then saying it solves problem X.
Okay.
Which is where you now trying to create customers for your solution, your product, your platform, whatever it is. Versus saying, is there something that the market wants? Is there something that's missing? So I'm going to just very quick give you the 2 examples, right, where at least we've seen success and where it didn't. Access Risk Consulting, there was no a country for the world model. We were the first. And the problem we were solving for was that whenever I spoke to clients in the big 4 avatar or big 5 avatar, their pet peeve was, I'm a global client of yours, but when I go to 70 countries, I get treated 70 different ways. There's lack of consistency. And having been there, I knew that the big guys don't have it structural to solve for it. So we knew that we were solving for a very genuine customer need.
Okay.
The consistency of one provider across the world, right? When it came to GRMI, it was pretty clear. We were solving for the problem that there is no trained risk graduate or postgrad, right?
Correct. There's a gap.
And the market needs it, right? So in both cases where you see it working, it is because we weren't trying to create a problem. The problem existed.
Okay.
We brought in a solution. So that's my one big sort of advice to anyone who wants to be an entrepreneur. Give up the safety of a check and all of that stuff. The second is, are you sure that you have got a version 2.2, 3.2, 4.2 ready already while you launch version 1.2? Because if you hit success, highly likely someone with deeper pockets than you will ape it. And that stage, unless you already ready possibly with a version 4.0 to catch them completely off guard, the smaller guys who came up with the idea are likely to get killed. So those would be two very difficult to implement, and yet I think essentials of anyone who wants to be really venturing into.
Yeah, that's really good advice from a seasoned entrepreneur, right? And what are you most excited? Like, what's your vision? I'm going back a little bit to GRMI. What's your vision for GRMI? Where do you see it? Because you mentioned you don't want to compromise on quality. You don't want to necessarily have a lot of students there. So what's your vision there for GRMI?
So I'm going to say what we don't want to be. So at one of our strategy meetings, one of our strategy board members said, so you want to be the Harvard of risk, right? And I said, no, we want to be the GRMI of risk, which is we do not wish to ape anyone. We want to be the school that comes to anybody's mind when the word risk comes up in the space of education. That's our very simple vision, which is you cannot think of a school other than us. Maybe there will be others over time, but we've just got to be just like Xerox is photocopying, right? One now uses the word here, Xerox. It's the name of a company, right? Just like Xerox is synonymous with photocopying, GRMI has got to be as synonymous with risk. That's really the vision. We don't want to be anyone else.
Now that was a really nice answer, but would you have said something different if I'd asked you this 20 years ago? What's your definition of success?
Yeah, they were very different actually.
Yeah.
Because 20 years back, it was all running to be a partner in an Andersen or an EY. It would have been then to say I'll be a functional head or a vertical head, and then possibly a country head, and then a regional head. And that's how one defines success. Thankfully for me, success was never about your address, which happens with many, especially who are in the NCR region. But at least those aspirations of something in a big four is how we sort of define success. But today, if you ask me, it's very simple. It's legacy. To me, if you can't leave a legacy behind, then what's the point? Because and that really happened at not so happy a moment when I lost my dad, and I'm actually going to pick up what they call Asthi, and he was a super successful intelligence officer. When you see a human being just worth an urn of ash, to me that was the moment that sort of redefined success in my head, saying, if that's all you sort of are, all of us are, try and strive to at least leave some legacy behind. To me, the efforts one is putting in to redefine higher education for the country over a period of time for Global South, redefine what we're trying to do for the corporate world through the model risk code, and sort of build young students who go on to be professionals as risk professionals. That's the legacy. If one can sort of achieve success with that, it's a very different definition of success from what I had in mind 20 years back. Very different.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. So I think the legacy question is, a perfect ending to the conversation we've had so far. And thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. It was wonderful having this conversation.
So guys, I hope you enjoyed this conversation. There was a lot of learning in it for me, and I'm sure there was a lot of learning in it for you. This is part of the founder series. Go and check out the other founders in the series if you haven't already done so, and quickly hit the like and subscribe button so that I'm motivated and I keep getting you great content. Thank you.